Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeyed with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to be joining you this week. Thanks for tuning in. Got another great show lined up for you today. I know you'll think so after viewing it. Eliot Clough will be joining us here momentarily, and throughout this program, you'll see Eliot's information at the bottom of the screen, along with mine throughout the segments. Eliot's going to join us for segments 1 and 2, talking Hawkeye football and then Hawkeye men's basketball, as we record this on Tuesday afternoon, September 9th. So, Eliot, you had press availability today with Coach Ferentz, but also with the players earlier this morning. Would you please fill in the blanks and help us out as you so kindly said you would? So let's hit it, please.
Yeah, so not a ton from the players today. Obviously, everybody wants to hear from Mark Gronowski. And to tell you the truth, it sounded a lot like what we've heard from the quarterback room over these last few years. Things are working in practice. Things are. We had an awesome practice this morning, and I expect you to see the offense start to click here on Saturday and in the coming weeks. And while I completely understand the skepticism. I myself was really hard on Mark, probably too hard on Mark this weekend following their loss to Iowa State because he wasn't what they brought him in for. He brought him in, or they brought him in to reach that next level, to win those close games, to get some offense when you need it. And it didn't happen this last weekend against Iowa State. But as far as today's presser, that was probably the number one thing that we got from the players. Talked a little bit to TJ Hall about how he's taken that step forward this season. That's something we heard about in the spring and in the summer regarding him becoming CB1 for that cornerback group, something that cornerback group needed. And I think we got our first real illustration of that on Saturday too, with his 3 PBUs against one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And then otherwise, there's not a whole lot to say when you're going to be facing UMass this coming week. The Minutemen, one of the worst programs in all of FBS football. Last time they had a winning season was when they were in the FCS and they went just barely above 500. So a program that has struggled to get off the ground. Of course, they've got a new head coach, a huge new roster, ton of injuries coming into this week, so we won't even see them at full strength. But didn't hear a ton about UMass. Going into this week, more so just something of their current head coach, new head coach, was previously on the Rutgers staff, so a guy that in a scheme that can help prepare them for the coming week, the following week against Rutgers, which is an interesting tidbit. Heard a little bit about slow mesh too from Mark Gronowski. I'm sure you noticed that just as much as I did when they started running it. Thanks to Warren Ruggiero coming over from Wake Forest. They said they'd worked to institute that, I think during camp. And one thing that Kirk actually said before I fully get into what Kirk addressed today was that he didn't think it inhibited Mark's ability to learn the basics of the offense, which I thought was interesting. And in that, Kirk also said that he felt like Mark is still working to get fully comfortable.
Let's talk a little defense, please, Eliot.
So we'll start with the linebackers. I just don't foresee that group necessarily being elite, right? Like it's just, and to hold them to the Jay Higgins, the Jack Campbell standard is probably unfair because to have those two do what they did over that time frame, and then Nick Jackson come in, a guy who ended up being the all-time leader in tackles in college football, or Division I football, or FBS, what have you.
Yeah.
And then Seth Benson in there as well. Just a really, really good group of linebackers over these last few years. I think Carson Shire has a chance to do that. I think he led Iowa in missed tackles on Saturday, according to PFF. Did make some really awesome plays, but got to finish. Jaden Harrell, I think has been doing okay. It's not elite. I think he was better against Iowa State than he was against Albany. Jackson Rexroth improving. Obviously, I mean, I think generally speaking, people are going to prefer the 4-2-5 with the cash as opposed to the traditional 4-3. Just makes you more athletic, makes you more versatile. I think their three strongest positions are safety, free safety, strong safety, and cash between Xavier, Cohen, and Zach Lutmer. Like Cohen has the versatility and the size to be maybe a nickel at the next level. I don't know if that's what really happens. I don't know if he can reach the NFL. We'll learn more about him as the season goes along. Xavier Wampa, the 5-star, right? And playing in a more native position, more natural position to him. And Zach Lutmer just doesn't make mistakes. Like that's who Zach Lutmer is. You can trust him to defend tight ends in that 4-2-5 in the pass game. Going to be a little bit difficult for him to shed blocks in the run game when you're facing a 12 personnel team. But I think the defensive line has kind of been disappointing so far. I mean, they've generated some pressure, probably not enough pressure on Rocco Becht. A lot of those reads and throws were quick by Rocco Becht, so benefit of the doubt there. But only 2 sacks so far, and they both came against Albany.
He's Eliot Clough, beat writer for at CBS Sports and CBS Sports related 24/7 Sports. Eliot Clough, beat writer. We'll be back with more of him, and then we'll close out the show with Jake Olson from the Van Hayden Band. Back with more Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, in just a few moments.
Hawkeyed is brought to you by BetterEdge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on BetterEdge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kieski, BetterEdge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at betteredge.com/Hawkeyed and get $10 to start winning more today. BetterEdge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Eliot Clough, kind enough to stay over for the second segment. Eliot, of course, with 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports, beat writer covering all things Iowa Hawkeye. So we talked football, deep dive in the first segment. Let's you and I change pace a little bit, Eliot, and talk a little men's basketball. Hawkeye men, Ben McCollum, haven't played a game yet, but there's much excitement about the new regime in Iowa. How's recruiting looking? Of course, you guys are some of the best in the business at covering what the Hawks are looking at, who they're bringing in, but also how are early season drills looking, please, Eliot?
Yeah, hearing a lot of good things coming out of Iowa basketball. Trey Thompson, the early enrollee, I get reclassification in that 25 class. Supposedly he's fit right in right away. Hearing a lot of good. I mean, like I almost feel like I don't have to talk about Bennett Sturts because he's just reached that level of fans are going to be so excited. Like, don't be surprised if he's an All-American. Today there was the news that he was listed as preseason All Big Ten, one of 5 players named preseason All Big Ten. And then you look at Brendan Housen, a guy who is going to provide some shooting for Iowa this year. Cam Maniout might just be playing center for Iowa. Even though he's 6'9", he did it last year in the Missouri Valley and held his own. Alvaro Folgueras is a guy that, I mean, I think it'll take some time getting used to playing high major ball just because of his frame, but he is the prototype for what this offense, this staff wants at their 4 or 5 spot. A guy who's skilled, a guy who can shoot the three, a guy who can pass the ball. And then Tavian Banks is just one of those junkyard dogs. Like he's really grown in terms of his ability to shoot the rock too, from what I've heard. A guy who's going to be a leader. I think people are really going to love Isaiah Howard, another junkyard dog type of mentality that he'll bring to the floor. But yeah, I mean, and even down to Trevin Urich, who's a freshman from West Des Moines Valley, saw him play in high school and thought, man, I would love for him to go to UNI, being a Panther myself, but he's probably a high major kid, and here's what happens: he ends up playing or signing with Iowa, and he's the biggest player on the roster, so he might be
Yeah.
needed out of brought on the court out of necessity. Tate Sage, a guy that I'm really excited about, that I liked coming to when he was committed to them at Drake, following him to Iowa. Cale Combs has been playing well. This roster, it's hard to look at this roster as an Iowa, like if somebody is an Iowa fan and not be excited. We'll see if they're greater than the sum of their parts. There's going to be some work there to make everything cohesive, other than the guys who come over straight from Drake, right?
Yes, and 2 quick points to that, what you just said, Eliot, on 2 guys, or one guy you hadn't mentioned yet, and I know you'll get to him, but Cooper Cox. It'd be nice to see him healthy and get rolling, and I think he can add a lot to that. Runs the floor extremely well. Of course, we had his dad, JR, on here last year with JR's former teammate, Kent McCausland, and they were talking about, last year before he was injured. I think he's going to have some great contributions this year. Big kid that runs the floor and can shoot it, rebounds well, but a lot of upcoming on-campus visits coming from incoming recruits. Let's talk about some of the guys that you think may be coming to Iowa City in the future, please, Eliot.
As far as visitors, yeah, Quentin Coleman is at the top of the list for me. He's a kid that has offers from Wake Forest, Texas Tech. Those seem to be the biggest players. When you look at a program like Texas Tech, they've got money to spend. So that would probably be the biggest competitor. But man, Coleman is I wouldn't say a carbon copy, but a similar player to Bennett in that he can step out and shoot it. You cannot speed him up. He can finish at the rim. Really just very even keel throughout the entirety of the game. He might be my favorite in this class that Iowa's going after. One of my favorites because there's a ton of really good talent. But I know that the staff has a continued relationship with him from their time at Drake. Plays at Principia School in Missouri, so obviously there's connections to Missouri there as well with this staff. And then it'd be closer to home than Wake Forest and Texas Tech, so you have that in your advantage. But a kid that will be visiting Iowa in the near future, Joseph Hartman. His dad is on the Florida staff, and they've determined that he's not going to go to Florida.
Ah,
And that's a national championship program. So you got a little bit of ties. I'm sure he's learned some really good things from the staff down there in Florida. But other programs like Minnesota, Michigan involved. Whenever Michigan gets involved, Dusty May can coach like hell. He's a really good coach. And of course, they've got a bevy of resources as well. You go down the list to Eli Sancom, who will visit, does not currently have an offer from Iowa, but he's one of those that typically, if Iowa sets up an official visit and you don't have an offer, you'll get an offer when you get on
hmm.
campus. And he's a kid that, from what we know, is very high on the Hawkeyes. Has mostly mid-major offers at this moment in time, but he's the number 102 recruit in the country for us at 24/7. Then you move down to a guy like Ethan Harris, who has an offer from Gonzaga, and Washington is also in the mix. He is from Washington, so that'll be a tough pull. But there's also that Trey Thompson bit where he's really connected with the staff, really feels like he would fit in Iowa City, not only with the culture and stuff like that, but also the way they play basketball. He's that tweener. He's like a Cooper Koch build, right? He'd be a really good fit for what Iowa does offensively, and Iowa really likes him. They went out to Washington recently to visit him. Ben McCollum and an assistant did, and then with him, Washington, like I said, is also involved, and they've got money to spend. So it's just it's just a factor with what you're dealing in recruiting right now. But I think Trey Thompson is a reason that Iowa fans can be optimistic when it comes to recruiting, whereas they couldn't be with the last staff. I mean, you look at some of the kids that they brought on campus, and there were 4 stars and top 100 kids, and then I would be in the final 3, and then nope, because they
Yep.
had, well, one, so little money, and two, so little postseason success. You're hoping that this staff can. Well, they've already changed quite a few things, and things are going to be looking different with this staff, how they recruit, how they play on the court, and I think that will start to snowball with more high profile recruits choosing the Hawkeyes. And that's assuming that the NIL funds can come with it.
Well, and Elliot, we'll close out with this. And you and I talked out there. I'll bring it on here, time and place, but I'll at least mention Chase Branham is a name that's been bandied about. And you and I talked off the air, so I'm going to bring it on here. I played basketball at Kirkwood with his uncle Charlie, and of course, I know his dad Nick. They're Missouri people through and through, but that program does not fit his needs. He's got a couple of big programs who are looking at him, and Duke and Indiana, of course, in the Big Ten with DeVries. And hopefully, I'd love to see him. They've got some, they like Iowa a lot. And we've heard him say that, heard his family say that. So I know the family a little bit. And so I'm hoping he can come in, because the thing that you're mentioning, though, Elliot, that I like, and I think fans are going to understand this to what you've been saying this whole segment and what you say on your, again, if you want to see Elliot's handiwork, we keep his information at the bottom of the screen along with mine and all of our guests throughout the program. Check out Elliot's handiwork on what he's written about Chase Branham. But I think that style of play, or not just Chase, but all these other players you and I have been talking about, there's a Ben McCollum type of player. And as you're nodding your head feverishly off camera, I'll bring it on the camera. But I think what you've really hit upon is, and fans are going to understand that. You and I can tell what does that mean? See Bennett's thirst, defense can play offense. Doesn't necessarily have to be like you said about Jurak being the only true center at 6'11" with that height. A lot of interchangeable parts. And I think McCollum, everybody talks about, it's defense. They can play a little offense too. So I think Cooper Koch is another one of those guys I'm excited for, not to diminish anyone else's talents or fit, but I think fans are going to come quickly to understand, Elliot, this season, what it means when we say a Ben McCollum type player. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Kid that's going to give 100% effort 100% of the time. Ben really, really likes positional versatility. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to play a lot of guys who are 6'4" and up. You're going to see the point guard is going to be 6'4". I have seen a few recruits where I'm like, man, Ben would love him if he was 3 inches taller. That's just his prototype, right? He prefers the taller guard that can switch between playing maybe a shooting guard, maybe a point guard, and maybe even the small forward type. He loves that positional versatility. He loves guys that can shoot. He loves, I mean, if you don't play defense, you're not playing for Ben McCollum.
Folks, there he is, Eliot Clough. Again, at CBS Sports and 24/7 Sports beat writer covering the Iowa Hawkeyes. Eliot, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely, Dave. Thanks so much for having me.
Truly my pleasure. For Eliot Clough, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back to close out the show with Jake Olson from the Van Hayden Band. You'll know what that means here in just a few moments. I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. Back with more in just a few moments.
You don't have a lot of time to make decisions today if you want to be out front with the newest products. This is Joe Mershman from Mershman Seeds. Did you know that we're one of the first 2 companies to offer Enlist E3 soybeans in the United States? And because of that, you benefit from it. Here's Ben Pieper to tell you more.
With Enlist E3 soybeans, we have a front row seat to the highest yielding germplasm that's on the market. That allows us to focus on the things that matter to you, making sure you get what you ordered delivered on time to ensure the highest yielding soybeans for your farm.
Contact your local Mershman Seeds dealer today. They care and are ready to help you.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. I'm smiling because, man, oh man, I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. A year into making at least. The Van Hayden Band, vanhaydenband.com. Jake Olson will be joining us momentarily. vanhaydenband.com. You'll see him dressed in Hayden Fry garb, thus the name Van Hayden. For you Halen heads out there from the Van Halen Band, they do covers and change them with Iowa lyrics, but they're all dressed as Hayden Fry from back in that heyday of the 80s with the white pants, the black pullover, white shirt, commander's hat, and the sunglasses, and even the mustaches to match Hayden completely. So, Jake Olson, it is truly a pleasure to meet you for the first time. We've known each other over the years through family, but great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us, my friend. How you doing?
Great, doing good. Thanks a lot, Dave. Really appreciate the opportunity to get on here and kind of share our fun story that we've had over the years. We're currently in our 3rd year of this project, and it's just been a ton of fun. Going to Iowa games and rocking the lots, as we call it, and getting people hyped up to walk into the stadium and really be on a positive note when they go in to cheer on the Hawkeyes. That's what we're all about.
Yeah, and I love to hear that. Like you said, that's what you're all about, because you guys have jobs. I mean, it takes work, time, rehearsal, money to get there. You're from Wisconsin, Milwaukee area. You got a job. Your brother and another bandmate is in Chicago. You got somebody from Decorah, somebody from Cedar Rapids. So to bring it all together, you were at the Iowa State game last week in Ames, but primarily all the Hawkeye home games. You circled a lot in a redecorated ambulance in Hawkeye black and gold coloring. The intriguing thing to me, Jake, is 2 songs I want to highlight. And again, viewers, if you go to vanhaydenband.com or on YouTube in the search bar, just type in Van Hayden, VanHaydenBand, Van Hayden Band. And 2 of the songs I want to highlight that you do, though, Jake, that I find fascinating. And again, I want you to actually 3 songs. So 2 I'm going to mention, and you tell us about the new song you prepared for this year. But Pretty Woman, your old Roy Orbison classic, and of course, as Van Halen fans know, Van Halen redid that song years ago, became a huge hit. And then the song Jump, which Van Halen original song in the early mid-'80s, you put in Punt, which of course punting is winning, as we know in Iowa. So Pretty Woman with words and lyrics about Caitlin Clark. So let's talk about those 2 songs and your new song for this year, please, Jake.
Yeah. So when we first started, we kind of came up with that, how can we combine the legacy of Hayden Fry and our love for Van Halen, and the bringing these 2 things together. And then as we started saying, well, we could just be a traditional tribute band, but we said no, let's jazz it up a little bit and make it a little more fun. So when we started playing Jump, it just rang. I mean, might as well punt, go ahead and punt. It's been so much fun to bring that into it. But, one of the key things about that song is that while we wanted to highlight how awesome our punters are with, the past few years, Tory Taylor, Reese Dakin has been doing a great job this year, but, all the way back to, when I was in school and I was a good friend of Nick Gallery, Brian Hurley, we've had some great punters over the years. And so we said, but how can we make a song highlighting the punters without making it seem negative towards our offense. So what we did was we kind of adjusted the words a little bit to make it saying that our defense is so good that you might as well punt. So it's
There
not
you go.
about how it's not really about how great we are at punting, because again, we want to make everything positive as possible. So we said, hey, you know, if you want to go for it, you'll get owned. Might as well punt. And
I like it.
we do it that way. We come at it from that defensive aspect that you know, because we've got, you know, some great defensive players over the past few years, and a great coach, you know, great coaching staff there that get our defense ready to go. So
Yeah.
and then we, you know, we said, okay, well, what are some other fun songs we can do? And we probably have 30 songs in our catalog of different lyrics and fun things. But, you know, with Caitlin Clark, you just got to do, you know, Pretty Woman, Caitlin Clark, it just kind of comes in there. So Caitlin Clark walking down the street, Caitlin Clark shooting logo threes, you know. My favorite lyric in there is when our singer says, "I wish she had a twin, Caitlin Clark." That's the best one. So
What I love about that, Jake, is sometimes the material writes itself. And with Caitlin playing as she does, like you said, and not to diminish your songwriting or restructuring skills. But, and again, viewers, we have Jake's information, as we do of all of our guests throughout all our segments, at the bottom of the screen. So if you say, Dave, I can't remember, what is it again? It's vanhaydenband.com, or YouTube, type in Van Hayden Band. But we have Jake's information at the bottom of the screen. But I love that. Like you said, but I love the positive part, little tongue in cheek, some of these. And yeah,
Yep.
30 plus songs now. So give us a tidbit of what's upcoming. You said you have a new song for this year. Let's break news here, please, Jake.
Yeah, well, like last year, we kind of ventured a little bit away from the Van Halen only. And so last year you may have remembered a couple years ago, there was an issue with potentially a fair catch that may or may not have been a fair catch. So
Cooper
we
DeJean,
decided
yeah, maybe, yeah, that wasn't a fair catch. Yes, I do recall.
we decided to take the Twisted Sister song, "We're Not Gonna Take It," and we switched that to "It Wasn't a Fair Catch." It was not a fair catch, we all know. So that was the song we were doing last year in the tailgates. That went over pretty well. But this year we decided to do a little AC/DC, and so we do Back in Black, but then the second song we go into is the song "Money Talks." It's a little more of a deeper cut off of the Thunderstruck album, but you only have to change one word in that entire song to make it pretty apropos to the state of college football. So it's come on, playing for the money. Come on, listen to the money talk. Chauffeured cars, tailored suits, big cigars. It's you want it all. The furs, the diamonds, the painting on the wall. Come on, playing for the money. Come on, listen to the money talk.
Now, what did I say earlier where the material writes itself? Yeah, but, you know, huge AC/DC fans. That was an early 90s song, big video. So, yeah, it's not that deep a cut as some people think. When they hear it, they'll go, okay, I know that song.
Yeah, and they immediately start laughing, going, oh, this is perfect, you know. And we do change a few more in there, you know. We add in name, image, likeness, the writing on the wall, you know. So we do add a few more things in there, but really it's the same thing as we've got going on in college football is what that song's about. So anyway.
Jake, I love it. Fantastic stuff. You know, a lot of times this will be our sports betting segment. Of course, we cover Hawkeyes through and through of all the sports here, from, you know, men's, women's basketball, baseball.
Yep. I typically take the under whenever I was involved, by the way, for sports betting.
Well, you know, last year, hilarious. You're a smart man, because last year, you remember, Jake, a lot of games last year, last couple of years, Vegas had the line set at 29.5. And the games weren't even close to that. They'd go 26 or 25. So if you bet under, you're correct. And
that's why our defense is so good that you might as well punt. See, there you go.
There you go. Once again, the material writing itself. This is awesome. Jake made my day. Shot in the arm here. The family connection, the great band, the great covers or tributes that you do, and change the lyrics and words to Hawkeye-friendly material. But again, this is the type of stuff I want to bring viewers. Besides all the Hawkeye coverage that we do, we're into what the fans are doing and saying, and coming to a parking lot near you or a tailgate near you. Van Hayden, Jake Olson, and crew. Jake, my friend, again, do please tell your dad Frank hello, and thank you so much for doing this. We will talk to you again. We need to make this an annual thing, because you keep coming up with new songs, new lyrics, going outside of Van Halen with an AC/DC and Twisted Sister covers and tributes. Jake Olson, I love it. Great stuff, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you in the tailgates and the lots this weekend for sure. If you see us driving around, give us a wave, and we'll wave back, and we might just stop and play for you. So.
Oh, I love that. See, a personal tribute. How cool is that?
Yeah,
Hey,
we did that last weekend. We were driving through the lot, and somebody waved at us, and we're like, we got a few extra minutes. Let's stop and play. So
I love it. This is great stuff. Jake, thank you so much for Jake Olson and Eliot Clough. Yeah, you're welcome. For Jake Olson, Eliot Clough, and to you, the viewers, and to my production partners at Better Edge and BetterEdge.com, Greg Kajewski and James Stiles, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeyed. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you.